Good morning, everyone. A good Chodesh. It's a new month today. The month of Tammuz should be a month of good health, happiness, and success for each and every one of us and our families. Today's learning is dedicated in memory of Leah Bas Feivel, Tzivia Bas Mordechai, Avram ben David Slavin, Shlomo ben Yisrael Morris, Eliezer ben Shmuel Teret, Eliezer Shalom ben Avram Shmuel Beres, Tzipora Fegel Bas Reuven Baruch, Shalom ben Elieli, Ben Bas Feivel, from Rosh Hashanah Bas Yaakov Shmuel, Pesach ben Yehuda Leib, Shmuel ben Chaim, and Yitzchak ben Tzvi. We wish their respective families long life and only simchas. So we want to try to do 1.5 Mishnayos today, since it's quite a lot, the second one, and the first one is rather short. So we'll see what we can do. So a very strange Mishnah. Listen to this. So we're dealing still with Hillel, and this is what he saw. Afu ra'a gulgoles achas shetzafa al pnei hamayim. He saw a skull, okay, floating on the water. What was Hillel's reaction to seeing a skull of a dead person floating on the water? Amala al da'etav atfuch v'sof mitapayech yutuvun. Because you drowned others, they drowned you, and those who drowned you will be drowned themselves eventually. So this needs qualifying, but simply speaking, the concept is a fundamental concept in Judaism. It's axiomatic. The concept is what's referred to popularly as midah keneged midah, measure for measure. In other words, if you do something to someone, then no crime goes unpaid. Okay, no turn goes unpaid. So therefore, the same way as the punishment has to fit the crime, so the reward will fit the reward. And what we are saying, what this Mishnah seems to suggest, is that a person who drowned others, he in turn would be drowned. What this does not mean, and again, I'm emphasizing, what this does not mean is that whenever we see anybody that's drowned, it must be that they drowned somebody else. Or whenever we see anybody murdered, it must be that they murdered somebody else. That's not what it is saying. Amongst those that would be drowned, amongst those that would be murdered, it may be that they have done something which makes them liable to that punishment, but that is for God to determine and to know. We cannot second guess God's will, and therefore it's not for us to start trying to, as people do whenever there's tragedies, and they walk into a shiva and everyone's very well-meaning, and very often you hear it, especially people that, maybe think that they know best, and they start saying things like, well, it's all for the best, and if somebody dies early, it must be they fulfilled their purpose in this world. That may be true, but it's not for us at the time of somebody's pain and sorrow for us to try to play God and to second guess what he has said, what he has done, and what his logic is. What we do know is there is no such thing as where there is a judgment, there is a judge. You can't have a judgment without a judge, and therefore there is a logic, there is a whole calculation in terms of what goes on in the world. It is exceptionally difficult, if not impossible, for us to ever understand us as finite beings, an infinite being. Is beyond our comprehension. Sometimes the calculation is only worked out generations later. But what we can say and what we need to know is that no good deed goes unpunished, and no bad goes without punishment. And if a person does something untoward towards somebody else, he will be punished. Okay, now that is the point of this Mishnah. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. I think that's the essential point that we want to take away from this one. So therefore, sometimes we see it, just to conclude, as it's very unfair. Why should this person Why do the righteous suffer? Why do the wicked seem to prosper? That's the famous question, the old chestnut. And the answer is that they don't. It's just we do not always understand and comprehend or live long enough to see the totality of the picture of the great masterpiece that the Almighty is creating in this world. We carry on to the next Mishnah. Hu haya omer, marbe basa, marbe rima. So again, when it says hu haya omer, if it doesn't, he used to say, if it doesn't say a name, who is it? It's the person that we were already speaking about. We're speaking about Hillel. So therefore, it's Hillel speaking. What does Hillel say? Marbe basa, marbe rima. The more flesh, the more worms. We'll see what that means in a minute. Marbe nachosim, marbe daga. When a person has more possessions, then he has more worries. Okay, and this is all we are going to do with for the rest of today's session. So let's try and understand these two statements. Okay, the first one we said was marbe basa, marbe rima. The more a person is of flesh, physical, then the more that they are going to be filled with worms. Obviously, we are talking about the after a person passes on from this world, then we decompose, right? We decompose, and therefore the idea is that we should. It's a sobering thought, but one that we should bear in mind. That whereas man's wants, as Adam famously said, the great economist, man's wants are infinite, right? We try very often to satiate our infinite wants, right? Without succeeding. Everyone, we all have very big eyes, and we think that we're encouraged and enticed by the sights and delicacies of this world to treat ourselves, right? To treat ourselves. You only have to look the other day, and straight after the shops opened up, there were lines going round the block, and you have to ask yourself, what is it that these people needed that they couldn't wait to get, right? What is it that they were missing? And then they interviewed afterwards people that had spent an hour, 2 hours to get into Primark, and it was some ridiculous item that they just saw there, and they said, well, if it's there, I might as well buy it whilst I'm here. And it was something, some snowsuit or something that they are never going to wear. So we learn from this an important concept, that of course Judaism does not believe in abstinence. It doesn't believe that we have to shut ourselves off from the world and live without self-inflicting pain. That's not the way Judaism is. The whole idea is that we are meant to engage in with the world at large, and we're meant to take everything in this world and infuse it with a kedusha, with a sanctity. How do we do that? By using it in the right way. If I take a piece of fruit and I make a blessing and I eat it, and what have I done? I've taken something physical and I've elevated it. I've used it for the right purpose in the right way that it was intended, right? If I take I buy a nice piece of clothing, and when I buy that piece of clothing, you say, you know what, I want to buy this for my mother, right? I want to give her a present, right? I'm doing a mitzvah with it. Or I buy the clothes for myself, but I do it because I want to look nice for my spouse, or I want to look nice for Yom Tov, right? Or for Shabbos, or for a Simcha. Okay, not to show off, but just that I look appropriate, I look well, I look good. There's nothing wrong in that, right? And there's nothing wrong with having nice food. In fact, we find that the meat and wine are considered something that we are meant to have on Yom Tov and Shabbos, because we are meant to enjoy it. Yom Tov and Shabbos in particular is called an oineg, a delight. So this world is a delight, not by abstaining or removing ourselves from this world, but by utilizing it in the right way. And if we are able to utilize everything in the right way, then it's not going to be at the end of our lives that we're just going to be decomposing flesh, but the flesh itself will be something elevated. So there's a sobering thought here by Hillel. And the next thought he says, which follows on, and it's one of my famous popular sayings, the more possessions, the more worries, right? You hear people, right? You hear people speak, and they're worrying about their second holiday home and their boat, and or they're worried about their new cars, and they're worried about whether it will be stolen or not, or there's so many different things. The more things that we have, the more things we have to worry about, right? A poor person only has to worry about having the next morsel of food. He doesn't have extensive objects and things in this world, and therefore he doesn't need to worry. And therefore, that's something for us to consider, right? If we utilize these things in the world for the way they are meant to be, right? We don't see them as an end in themselves, but a means to an end. And therefore, they are there for us to fulfill our mission in this world, to lead a fulfilling, meaningful spiritual life. Then we don't get so worked up. It's very challenging. You have you could be a new carpet or a car or a kitchen, and we want it to stay a certain way. We have visions of the way it should look and the way it should be, and we've attached tremendous importance to it. There's a real danger that we get carried away. So the point of this Mishnah, where this will conclude, is to remember that everything in this world is here for us to enjoy, but it should be used as a means to an end. Elevate it, utilize it for what it was intended. We now move on to Psalm 23, which says as follows: The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even when I walk in the valley of darkness, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for length of days. Memorial prayer. El Malay Rachamim Shoichin Bamroing Mim Amatem Nochina Akam Feshkin Amalais Kedoshim Maturin Kazaraki Mosim Es Nishmois Pesach Ben Yudalev Shmuel Ben Chaim Yitzchak Ben Tzvi Leah Bas Bible Tzvi Bas Mordechai Avram Ben David Slavin Shlomo Ben Yisrael Morris Eliezer Ben Shmuel Teret Eliezer Shalom Ben Avram Shmuel Beres Tzipora Fegel Bas Reuven Baruch Shalom Ben Eli Ali Bein Bas Bible from Shoshana Bas Yaakov Shmuel Shalchu Li Olamam Began Aiden Taimanu Chasam Lachin Balarachamim Yasirein Veseisa Kanapabli Olamim Bitzov Zachaim Sishma Samadina Elach Lasam Bianuchu V'Shlomish Kavam V'Nomar Amen. Good morning, everyone. We're going to recite a Refuah Shlema prayer. And I have to tell you, I can only speak personally, that a few days ago, I thought to myself, listen, this COVID, it's finished. We don't need to worry. Should we keep saying Refuah Shlema prayer at the end of the day that, we haven't heard of any cases around here? Well, I've got to tell you, regrettably, there have been a number of cases, new cases in Israel, and they have opened up now the hospital wings again in Israel for COVID. And also I have heard that there are some cases in the Jewish community again in London of COVID. So sadly, we hope that we're not back to square one, but certainly there is cause for concern, and we wish everyone a Refuah Shlema, as well as the wider community, a Refuah Shlema from COVID and anything else that they are suffering from. Misha Beirach Avasein Avram Yisrael Yaakov Moshe Aaron David Shlomo Yivarach Rapes Acholim Bavosh Anu Mispalim Bavaram Bez Chazak Kadosh Baruch Hu Yimali Rachim Aleichem Rachman Lefosam Yishlach Nem Kushim and Shemaim Lechorvim Besosh Shachu Yisrael Rapos and Average Vosokov Hashabag Makarev and Amar Amen. As we said at the beginning, it's a new month, Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, today and tomorrow. Please God, we should usher in and inaugurate a new month, a good month, a month that we, as we say every month when we inaugurate, of bracha v'hatzlacha, of health, of happiness and success, of good health and prosperity for us and for our families, and an end to this pandemic, and only peace between all peoples. Amen. Have a great day. Look forward to seeing you tonight as we stand with us learning about Israel and advocacy for Israel. Look forward to seeing you 8 p.m.